Welcome to another session of the Gobble Cloud Podcast. My name is Will. I am the host of this show, number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Oh, wow. Let's get it, y'all. Thank you so much for always tuning in. I can see the viewership already going up right now. Thank you so much for always watching and tuning into my weekly Friday shows. If you're tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, to all my subscribers out there that always support my channel and always support my weekly shows and always send me positive feedback. Thank you so much for all your love and support. You guys already know what to do. If you love the content, support the channel. Appreciate the YouTube journey. Smash and press that like, subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, this is a live show, so definitely we already know this. We do have the live chat, so always appreciate you guys always giving me your feedback and opinions and thoughts on the live chat based on the topics we're going to discuss tonight. We have a great guest, and we have some great topics to share with you guys tonight. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. And let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Don't forget, this is a public show, so if you're tuning in for the very first time and you're not familiar with my content, I do invite people to come on the podcast. I will post the public link on the live chat on YouTube. So if you're watching this from Twitch, if you're watching this from Facebook, you have to come to YouTube on the live chat. I'll pin it to the top of the screen. Click on that link, and you can join and be part of the conversation. As you can see tonight, we have a lot of room on the panel for tonight's show, so you can definitely come on and invite you guys to be part of the conversation. Always appreciate you guys are willing to join. Don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. Everybody that always donates financially to my channel, thank you so much. Every single donation will be going to my podcast to give you guys better quality content. Of course, I'm launching my podcast studio by the end of this year and having in live studio shows. So thank you so much for all your support. If you have a specific question or topic that you guys want us to discuss, or if you have a specific question to Natalia that you want her to answer for you live on the show, ask it through ask it through a super chat, and I'll be able to make that a priority. Nevertheless, that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. Thank you so much. And then first and foremost, I'm gonna give a special shout out to Natalia for being on here on tonight's podcast live show. I know this is her first time. I'm excited to have you on here. But Natalia, I know some people be watching this right now who may not know who you are. Can you give everybody a quick introduction of who you are? Go ahead.
Of course, thank you, Will. So I'm Natalia Macias. I am 26 years old. I live in North Carolina. I come from a Mexican background. I am Catholic, as you guys all know, and I am currently in a relationship.
All right, nice. No worries. Thank you so much, Natalia. I'm excited to have you on here. And how you feeling? You know, we're already for 3 minutes in. How you feeling right now?
I'm not nervous yet, so.
All right. No worries, Natalia. So nevertheless, thank you so much, everybody watching. Show some love in the live chat. Let me know where you guys are in. Let me know if you guys are tuning in from. But nevertheless, let's get right into it. Natalia, be ready. I have a specific hot topic to discuss tonight to start off our podcast. I'm gonna have a video that I did see go viral on YouTube on TikTok. So I'm gonna play it right now, and then it's about almost a minute, and I'm gonna get your reaction to it. What's your reaction and thoughts on this topic? So be ready. I need some fire tonight, Natalia. Be ready. All right, so let me play the video right now. All right, and I'll put you on mute real quick so that way the video quality is a lot better when I play the video. So let me play the video right now.
About what it means.
You hear it? Okay, cool.
To be a born-again virgin, so I'm going to talk about it. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, behold, the new has come." And that's the thing, whenever we become a new creation, whenever we're born again, bits and pieces of us aren't born again. Bits and pieces of us aren't a new creation. We are wholly a new creation. Isaiah 43:25 also says, "I am he who blots out your transgressions for my own sake, and I will not remember your sins." And it also talks about in Psalms about how as far as the east is from the west, so far as he removes our transgressions from us. Which means in God's eyes, we are completely righteous. We are completely innocent. We are completely pure because he doesn't remember our sins anymore. Does this mean I haven't had sex before? No. I still have had sex. That is still in my past, but it just means that in God's eyes, I haven't. And God's opinion of us is the only opinion that matters.
All right. So Natalia, I saw this topic. I saw this video going viral on TikTok, and if you look at the comments, there's a lot of discussions between the men and the women. And I do see this as a trend. And of course, obviously, you come from a traditional background, you're Catholic. Obviously, you see it really, really both live in America in modern society, where in modern society now it's normalized, for women to go out there. They want to have some multiple sexual partners, whatever whatever they want to do with their bodies, and go out there and sleep with as much men as they want, which is their choice, which is okay, right? That's if that's what they want to do with their life. But I do see on social media there's this movement that a lot of women will go sleep around, especially, but then they would say once they find religion or their faith, they are now considered born again virgins. So so it's interesting to hear from what the men's perspective of how they see it, and it's interesting to hear from the woman's perspective
Yeah.
of how they see it. And I want to ask you, like, if obviously you're in a long term relationship with a man, and obviously you see, what I'm interested here, what your thoughts are, like, what do you feel about a woman going out there and having multiple sexual partners and be very promiscuous? Does that affect her ability to, attain a long term relationship? Does that affect her ability to find a good man? But I don't know. I know I have my opinions on it. I'm gonna hold off on it, but that's what started this conversation on the comments. And of course, what I do see on social media, a lot of women are like who found their faith in God, which is great, but their religion. But a lot of them believe that no matter how extreme their sexual past history was, it can really be eliminated and be called yourself a born again virgin. So, what's your thoughts on that? Because it's very interesting. Because there's a lot of comments from the men and women going back and forth based on that video. But what's your thoughts about that topic? Can if a woman decides to go out there and have a high sexual and have a decide to I'm gonna go out there and just sleep as many men as I can, but then if I find my faith, um, that will wipe out my history. And then if I decide to date a man, the man shouldn't be concerned about my history because I'm a born again virgin.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Is that fair for the man to like? But that's I'm open up for discussion. What do you think about that?
I think that video, I think it's very sweet, and, being somebody who didn't always have a personal relationship with God, and then, having a personal relationship with God, I could understand her standpoint. I think if you go into like if you like go into the perspective and say, like you said, like, I'm knowingly gonna go and sleep with different people, and then and be like, and then right, I'm gonna when I get tired of that, I'm gonna find God, and He's gonna forgive me for everything. Yeah, God is going to forgive you, but that's playing God's mercy. That's like is playing what I just said, playing God's mercy. But if you lived a life without knowing God, not knowing that what you were doing was in fact as sinful as it is, and then you come to like this occasion where like you meet God, then yeah, you're considered like a born again Christian, and like God doesn't take account of the sins that you have committed in the past because you have repented, as long as you don't do it again. Now, if I say, "Oh, I'll just keep going back to God," it doesn't work like that. And or answering your question about like the whole relationship thing, where if women go out sleeping with as many men as they can, does that affect their chances? I think that's also a hard thing to answer, only because we do live in a society where both men and women are, having sex with as many people as they can. And some men don't even care. But emotionally, yes, it is hard for a woman um, to commit. It gets hard for a woman and a man to commit. Um, they get so used to that free lifestyle that, for a lot of people gives them adrenaline, you know?
Yeah.
It's like going on a roller coaster. It's fun.
Yeah. Do you think that I guess I totally understand her the standpoint of, if you had, made some bad choices in your life, and then of course you found your faith, and then of course, you're. But I don't. For me, I don't really like the term born again virgins. It's like because
There's
it
no
goes
such thing as that.
thing, right? It really goes against the definition of being a
Yes.
virgin. Um, and then, and for me, it's like, if you're no longer a virgin no more, there's nothing wrong with saying that. Look,
Mhm.
I'm not a virgin. Okay. So like, why?
Exactly.
Like, for me, it's like, why would you have to say born again uh, virgin, right?
I I think that many people, because virginity is, like, super emphasized in our society, like, people sexualize virginity, that's crazy, right? People
Yeah.
sexualize it, and I think women, um, want to go back to that original state, but they can't. It cannot change the fact that you have already done that,
Yeah.
you know? So, I agree. I think, born again virgin is not the correct term because in real life, you're not. In God's eyes, you're still not, but He has renewed you. That's all it is.
Do you think it's fair for a woman just like for a woman to because this is what the because on that video that because I watched the rest of the whole video and I watched her some of her content and she she was a born again virgin and she wanted to wait to have sex and then she I guess the man that she's with um she has an expectation that she doesn't want to give him she doesn't want to have sex to marriage. So I think I think a lot of the men were confused. Like if a woman has had a sexual past history and then and decides to go that way, um, I think for a lot of men that can be very confusing. And then what I see with a lot of women from the comment section, they're like, well, they don't understand how men see it and the women see it. Well, she doesn't want to do it no more. But what do you think about that? Is that can that be confusing for a woman? If that they had sexual past history and then all of a sudden she tells a man, especially if the man is a virgin. I don't know if the man's a virgin or not. To be like, hey, I know I have my history, but I don't want to pursue that. I want to wait to marriage.
Yeah, I think it can be confusing for both, sexes, for both genders, um, especially because, um, I feel like what I have heard, sex is not the same for women as it is for men, you know? For women, it's more of an emotional attachment and
Yes.
stuff like that, and sometimes they don't want once you've met what you don't even have to have met God. Sometimes you just don't want to, you know? And for men, because they have felt that, they they find it almost hard and impossible to even think about leaving that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it can be confusing for both. Absolutely.
I know. So yeah, that's one. I guess that's the the biggest thing that I saw from a lot of the comments. And um, because one thing, I mean, if you look at the biological differences between men and women and what we're attracted to, I think for men, the one thing that I mean, men really do care about a woman's sexual history. That's one of the things the men a lot of care about. And then I think I was reading about the research on that because it's just because men we care about paternity, you know. So usually, if a woman that has a lot of sexual partners, there's a concern of like, okay, whether this kid is gonna be mine. So that's why for a lot of men, it is concerning.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's why a lot of men that's why virginity can be seen as a as a main priority for a lot of men. Because for most men, they want to be able to if they're going to provide and protect for their woman. If you want to make sure that I'm going to invest into a woman that's going to have my children, and not invest into a kid that if I find out years later, oh, it's not my kid,
Yeah, that would
which
really
does happen a lot in certain cases. So I think that's why for the men is like if a woman if a woman says, I'm a born again virgin, and she says that, what, I don't want to, man should have said and never look at my sexual past history. Do you think that for men, like, because we're always, if we know a woman's gonna have like a sexual past history, even if she decides to be like a born again virgin or found her faith in God or religion, I think for most men they're still gonna consider that, right? They're still gonna take a look at that and have to like weigh out, well, is this something that I gotta think about if I'm gonna really invest in this woman? If I knew that she's been around the community or the block or the neighborhood or been with a lot of my friends that I probably know of. What do you think about that? Is that fair for the men to say that? Because a lot of the women I saw in the comments were like, no, she decides to be a born again virgin, found her faith. We shouldn't look past that. And we shouldn't even look at that. But what do you think about that?
I think that it's very valid for a guy to look at that, as it's very valid for a girl to see if she wants to be with a guy who's been around the block also. Um, I think that, um, yeah, paternity, the worry of paternity is a good thing to worry about also. But I think for men who, are also virgins and they give themselves to a girl who they thought was one and then find out that she wasn't. I think that can be very heartbreaking for them, like deceived. They could be very deceived.
Do you think so? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Extremely deceived. It matters. I think it you should be truthful and upfront in the beginning,
mm,
because as ridiculous as it may sound, it matters to people.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's fair. I mean, it's a preference.
Yeah. I mean, do you think? Because I know a lot of times that conversation comes up. I know you brought it up, like men, and women sleep around, women sleep around, men sleep around. Do you think that? Because one of the things that we always I hear from the men's side is like even though men sleep around, but for a lot of women they don't really care about if a man has a high body, if it has a high body count or sexual history. But what's your thoughts about that? Because I think for women they don't really care as much because we have different things of what we look for as far as what we're attracted to. But then for the men's side, that's something that we do care about. Do you think that it's the same, or do we have different opinions about if a guy, if a, because a lot of girls, because I do hear from a lot of girls, they would say, oh, if a guy has like a history of sleeping around, like for a lot of women, they would perceive that as, oh, he's good in bed. So I would want to be with that guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think women do think differently, for the most part. Um, but there are women who would rather their man to not have a high body count, I think if you find a man, for example, me, a man who can match your energy, whether it be, you don't wanna have sex at all, or
Yeah,
you do, I think that's very important.
yeah,
It establishes a good part of your relationship, especially if you wanna be chaste.
yeah,
Chaste as in, celibate.
yeah.
Mhm,
No, no, yeah. Because because I have seen, like, you mentioned already, like for a lot of women when it comes to sex, intimacy, physical intimacy, it's more emotional investment.
mhm,
So women have to be mostly attached to the man. For most women, there's always exceptions, but for most women, before they want to engage in physical intimacy or sex with the man, they have to be emotionally invested into him, some
mhm.
kind of emotional connection before. And a lot of times, if you have like a history of sleeping with multiple men, that can hurt a lot of women. They have a lot of trauma because every single time, like they emotionally invested into somebody, they get their heart broken or they get disappointed
Yeah,
or get so that can kind of cause a lot of issues with the woman. For the man, it's just more physical. For us, it's just like, well, guys, we don't really need a physical, emotional connection. if we like, if we like you, we're just like, if we like you, we just see it as sex, right? But if you want something long term, for men, if you want to, want a wife or want to marry somebody, then we start looking, okay, not only I enjoy having sex with this woman, but let's see if I can build a relationship with her because you finally found somebody that you want to spend time with. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on the like? Do you think because we both live in Western society with the casual sex dating culture?
Mhm.
That's the normal culture today. Casually, just go out there sleeping with random people, multiple people, and then hopefully you find your soulmate.
Yes.
After all those multiple relationships, all at this probably the same amount of time, right? You come from a different background. But what's your thoughts about that? Do you think casual sex dating culture is that the best way to find? Like, if you want to, because most women, they want to find a good man, a guy with good values, going to respect her, treat her right, be a good father, be a good leader. Um, so if that's the type of qualities that most women are looking for, do you think that's the best way to find that man is like the casual sex dating culture? What do you think?
I do not think that that is the best way. I'm not saying that it hasn't worked before, but I do think that that is not the best way, only because, let's be real, you are setting yourself with this person, uh, through one thing. So your foundation of your relationship with this person is sex. Sex and lust. That is your foundation, and it can be very wishy-washy. It is not a strong foundation. But if you seek out something as your foundation that is unbreakable, almost unbreakable, as in like a friendship first, or, you know, establishing an emotional connection where in the end, he will not just ghost you because he respects you enough emotionally to tell you this, and that. Um, yeah, in my opinion, it is not the best way to find your soulmate or, a significant other. Your
Oh yeah,
foundation is
you made a great. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying your foundation is very loose.
No, you actually made a great point because that's one thing I do see. It's like you don't build a solid foundation because it's all heavy based on sex, right? And it's not based on values. It's not based on duty. It's not based on morals,
It's
right? Like,
based
so
on
you,
lust.
yeah, based on lust, right? And of course, when it comes to lust, which is like a strong infatuation of a feeling.
Mhm.
Feelings is it comes and go, right? You
Me
can you can
too.
you can be lustful. You can be
Mhm.
lustful towards a woman today, and then you might see another woman and be lustful for her, be lustful for her. So it's not a foundation. So because feelings, infatuation, lustful, that comes and go. So if you want to
Exactly.
build your relationship off that, that's why a lot of times those don't work out because it's not because lust is not a commitment, right? Which
It's not. That's why
relationships you
maybe
can't
in
have a
love you
relationship.
can stay.
Yeah, yeah. Because relationships, you can't have a relationship if you want a marriage, a long term relationship. You can't build it without commitment. So a lot
Exactly.
of times people are just exchanging, having sex, but there's no commitment, and that's why a lot of people will be together today, but they'll be like they still haven't had the title,
Mhm.
the official title to figure out where they stand and where they are in the relationship.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. Do you have like a uh, you I mean, I know you said that wait, I forgot you said something about like it's not being tested or you don't know if that's the way it works. Uh,
Sorry?
I think you said like you don't know if that's the best way in the beginning. I forgot what you said.
Yes,
Don't you think? Don't you think it is the best way? Because we can just look at the traditional dating back in the day. We didn't marriages was still the marriage because we were talking before the podcast. The marriage rates are declining. People not getting married no more.
yeah,
Divorce is still 50% all time high in America. But when we look back in our parents' time, the more traditional times, people were in marriages and people had long term relationships. But now in the modern time now, where people basing their marriage and their long term relationship based on no morals, no value, no foundation, and it's not working out. Would you still say that the traditional way is way better if you
Oh,
want a long
the
term
traditional way
relationship?
is much better for sure, 100%. The new modern way is the one that doesn't work. Yeah. Um, I've seen it with my parents. My parents got married at the age of 18. They were very, very little. Um, didn't really date. They were childhood friends. And my dad said, I want to marry her. And he did. And they've been married for 37 years.
Yeah.
So, I do think that traditional way works best. But living in this world where we're so connected, um, through the computer, through everything, it's hard to find a traditional way of dating um, through all the new modern things. So it's kind of like you have to find this happy medium where traditional can meet modern, but with its standards.
Mhm.
Like I would take the establishing your relationship with a friendship, or um, you know knowing that you're going to get to know this person for who they are and not for what they look like. you know like, sure, you can go out and go on, like, um what is it, like, I wouldn't recommend Tinder, but like, these websites, meet somebody, establish a connection with them, that's totally fine. Like, just because you're on it doesn't mean that you have to sleep with them or anything. You're not committed to them. I think there is a way to find new modern dating and mix it with traditional to where it's still traditional and not fully westernized.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
All right. I see Antonio Lewis said, hello, Will. Hello, Natalia. Hey, what's up, Antonio Lewis? Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching and being live on the live show. Appreciate you, man. Um, I want to ask you, Natalia. Do you have children?
I do not know.
Okay. Obviously, I know you plan to have some. So, if you say you have a son, right? You say you had a son, and he brought home a girl, and then you know this girl's history, because she's well known in the community for being around the block, right? And she tells her son, "Hey, my mom, your son comes to you. Hey, this is my girlfriend. I'm really into her. She's a born again Christian. I mean, I'm not Christian. She's a born again virgin. Um, as a mom, and your son's like deeply in love with her. As a mom, would you like kind of like, hey, son, this is something you should consider? Would you ever have that type of conversation with him
It
when you
it would be
know?
my re Oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
As a mother, it would be my responsibility to have that conversation with him. While also, if she really does claim to be, I hate the term born again virgin, but I'll say born again Christian. If she claims to be that, I can't tell her that she's not that. You know, I can't tell her that. So it is something that I would have to tell him, like, this, and that. Are you aware of that? And I hope and I pray that through my children's life, I would have taught them enough about, um, you know, abstinence and waiting and establishing relationships, foundations. That is my responsibility as a parent to teach that to them while they grow up. So I would have put all my hope in my son to hope that he knows what to do. But I will be here till it's my responsibility to tell him, yeah.
Let him know.
That is really scary. I never thought about that.
But what I know a lot if a lot of feminists, and I know a lot of feminists would say, uh, you should never look past that. So like, what's your response to that? If that was your son, and a lot of women would say, don't think it through. Why you have that conversation? Just why give him that knowledge? What would you be response to those types of people? Because I think it is fair. Like I mean, like I said, whatever, if that's that her if that's her decision, that's her prerogative, that's fine. That's her
Mhm.
decision. She made her own choice. She made it. That is a change, but this is your son. This is somebody you love. and you
Yeah.
care about, and you want to make sure that he's making good choices as any parent should.
Mhm.
Like you said, he still has to make his own choice, right? But honestly, you're just going to bring him awareness. Hey, this is something that you should factor in based on your decision. This is something that you want to pursue long term.
Mhm.
Especially you have the knowledge and you have you've seen the data, you know the science and the biology and everything of how it affects women when it comes to those types of decisions. But what would you say to the critics who would say like that's you shouldn't even say that? What would you
Um,
say to people?
if I'm honest, I wouldn't really care what they say because I mean, we are constantly told in this society, if you do this, you're bad. If you do that, you're bad. I mean, you see it now, with all the things that are going on. I do feel like religious freedom is kind of at a stake, like we claim to be this country that has freedom of religion, yet Christians are criticized on the daily. So I think that um, I would not care what if somebody told me that I should not even take that into consideration, because in the end, it is me who is raising that child, and it is me who God trusted to raise this child the way that, you know, my traditions and my beliefs were instilled in me.
Yeah, I see. Tweets, man, TU Tussie 1700. Greetings from the Most High. Hey, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being on the live show tonight. No, I know we were talking before about the scientific data and evidence. I know you mentioned before the podcast. When children are born and then when the mother breastfeeds her baby, there's a chemical reaction, right? That's
Mhm.
released,
Yeah,
oxytocin that kind of bonds them, right?
exactly.
I remember I was reading on something about that too. Um, that's why that's why when women have sex with a man for the first time, there is also a chemical that's released. I think it's oxytocin. It's
It's
a love
oxytocin.
chemical.
Yeah.
So through sex, it's nature's way of bonding a man and woman together to have strong affection and feelings uh,
Mhm.
with each other. So a lot of times when a woman, and there was a study I read about this, when women have a higher body count and the higher it goes, that bond, they lose the ability to it's called pair bonding, right?
Yes.
Because they do it
Yes.
so much. So that's why for women if they go with a guy and that's the first guy they've been with, usually they have a strong love connection with that man. But then
Mhm.
when you see a lot of women who have a lot of multiple sexual partners, they can have sex with that guy, but there's no bond, there's no love, they don't have any affection or feelings for
Mhm.
that guy, which is important. So,
It is
and then it
very
was
important.
interesting to read the statistics and the data on that, and just
It
to hear.
is.
Go ahead. You want to add on to
There's
that?
Yeah, so there's, like, this part of your brain, I think it's in your frontal lobe, so it's kind of like tape. So, like, when you first get a fresh piece of tape, um, it's really sticky, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you have, your sexual partner. Like, you have sex with your first partner, it's freshly stripped from the tape, and it's the stickiest it will ever be.
Yeah.
Add another partner, you add it on here, take it off, it's not as sticky as it used to be before. Do it with another person, it's not as sticky as it used to be before, until you go through the same process over and over again with different men, and you no longer have adhesive to hold on to. And that is like what you just said, the pair bonding. That has completely distorted um, a woman and a man's ability to want to emotionally connect. You can still connect emotionally with somebody, but you really, really, really have to want it because it's biologically almost impossible for you to do it on your own now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard. It's really, really hard.
And then
And
at
that,
like,
that's
yes.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah,
Well, I was gonna say this is probably off topic, but then, add pornography to that too. And that's even worse, you know?
yeah. And no, what I was gonna say is, and that's not even including like the the toxicity that comes from those failed relationships, right? The trauma that
Oh,
comes,
yeah.
especially because the more people you meet and the more people you have sex with, you're gonna run into some bad apples. Eventually, you're
Yes,
gonna run into a lot of bad apples, right?
yes. A
You're
lot
gonna
of
catch
people think, yeah.
all those experiences or all those bad failed relationships and all those things that happened in the past. It's gonna be it's gonna come into your life and it's gonna affect you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that's all. That was very interesting. Just to bring this, I saw that topic going viral on social media,
Mhm.
and it's kind of concerning to me because I think I just saw in the comments a lot of the women were like, we can live our life, and then when we find God, and then everything will be just wiped clean. Which I do believe if they truly want to repent and change their life, I think from the spirit, on the spiritual sense, I think it is. I do believe in that, but we gotta look at the biology also. I think the biology though it will still be there, like everything you just mentioned. The adhesive. I like that analogy. I'm gonna use that next time.
It's a good one, right?
Yeah, that's good with the tape. Yeah, the tape. Every single time you have sex, it's like tape. You
You
lose the adhesiveness, right?
mhm. It's exactly what it is. But yeah.
No, no, it's interesting because when I talk to women who are very religious, they come from a very religious background, or they have never gone through a whole phase and never have that, and they never decided to go out there, and they've only been with one man, or they had like a low sexual body count. One thing I do find for a lot of those women, they're still in tune with their femininity, right?
Mhm.
They still have strong feelings for a guy. They still, have a healthy perception of a man. But one thing I do find when I talk to a lot of women, not only in like through podcasting, but also in my personal life, and when I talk to the women who have a high sexual history,
Mhm.
they have a lot of negative things. I hate all men, right? All
Yeah.
men are trash.
They
All,
put themselves in a situation where they've allowed men to hurt them like that.
yeah, and then now they switch from being feminine, love, being affectionate, and now they're very masculine, strong.
Very
I don't want to
masculine.
be very mad. I don't want to let anybody into my life. I'm going to do everything on my own. I'm being independent. So it's interesting how it changes. It changes, and I have no girls in my personal life like when we grew up together. They were one of the most feminine women that I knew growing up as a child. But then I meet them later, like in their 20 years later when they're adults now. I talk to them now, and they had some bad relationships or bad divorces or bad marriages. Now
Mhm.
they're just like anti men, or they joined the feminist movement. They're
It
feminists. They're feminists now.
like, I went to school with a lot of Russians, like, I only mention this because I feel like the purest not that there's, women from all different kinds of nations that are pure, but those Russian girls are probably some of the most pure girls that I've ever encountered because I knew a girl who super feminine, always wore heels, dresses to school, but she was saving her first kiss for marriage and she was saving herself for marriage. And she got married at the age of 17. She's now 27 and still married. You
Yeah.
know? Like it you your femininity has a lot to do with it. Like when you feel feminine, you want to upkeep yourself. You want to be desired, but you know your worth,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's funny about the Russian girls. I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about the difference between like the West and the East. Uh, and then one of the guys was like, "Yeah, when I go to he was talking about Russia. It was it was one of the countries in Russia or close to Russia. He was like, yeah, girls in the East in Eastern Europe. When you talk to those girls and they're like, and you ask them uh of the type of men they want to date, those girls like they date for marriage, right? So they don't. So when they ask them what type of man do you want to date, and what type of man do you want to marry, they're like, I want to date a guy that's a good provider, protector, that can take care of me, great father, um, you know. And then when you talk to the women in the West, what type of man do you date? They're like, oh, I want to date a guy that's funny, that makes me laugh,
Yeah.
that's good looking, or can dance. All right, so like their the criteria of what they want to invest to into a long term relationship is different. Like because everybody knows, like a guy that's just because a guy that's funny doesn't necessarily mean that he can take care of you. But if that's only your criteria to have sex with him and allow him to come into your life,
Mhm.
then that's a very low standard, right?
It
Low
is.
standard. So
It's
like, go ahead.
it's funny that you mentioned that because I when me and my boyfriend were in the talking stage, he did ask me, he said, "What are you looking for in a boyfriend?" And it's funny that you say that because I said the first thing I said is, "Oh, I want a guy who can make me laugh." But it's like, that's not the only thing we're looking for, but it's so true. Like, it's a very westernized way of thinking. We ask for low minimum because we feel like only men can give us the low minimum that we're asking for.
Yeah.
And it's not all men, it's men who are used to modernized days dating, you know? So that's really funny that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the reason why it makes sense because, like, if you are gonna, I mean, what's the purpose of dating? I mean, what's the purpose of dating? Dating is to go into a relationship, right?
Exactly.
And if you're gonna go into a relationship, it only makes sense. Why would you go into a relationship with somebody just for to temporarily break up? Like nobody, I mean, unless you have a weird rate of dating sense. But usually, if you're gonna commit to somebody, of going to a relationship with somebody where you're gonna invest your time and energy, and
Mhm.
also like your life, you're gonna do it. You're only doing it long term, right?
Exactly.
So why I believe it makes sense the traditional way, and also those girls that were dating for marriage in Eastern Europe, a lot of the things they look for are found what you mentioned before, the foundations, right?
Mhm.
A foundation of a good father is his ability that can provide and protect. A guy that's a good father is a guy that wants that responsibility to provide for his woman and provide for his kids. So it is a good idea, to find a guy that's a good provider protector. So
Yes.
it makes sense because you're investing you're investing long term,
Mhm.
right? But like you said, a guy that all he brings to the table is he makes you laugh, and you get in a relationship with him, and you have sex with him, and God forbid, you have kids with him, and he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have a career, he doesn't have any ambitions for his life to become a better man, but he can make you laugh though.
And he can make you laugh.
A lot of times, these the same women, right? And I always find it kind of like, I mean, I don't want to say funny because it is not funny, but women would go with these types of men, they, but then of course something happens to them, or like they get pregnant or something. They want that man to, hey, how come you're not stepping up for me? How come you're not being a great
Yeah.
father for me? How come you're not taking care of me? Then in my mind, it was like, you never required him to do that in the first
Yes.
place. Why are
Exactly.
you putting the expectation on him now?
Exactly. I had a friend who, she lives with her parents who, her parents recently, became, born again Christians, found God, and, she was so at the age of 18, she moved into her boyfriend's house, and it was pretty bad with her parents because it was disrespectful to them, like, he didn't even ask, she just left. And, then they, like, broke up, she went back home, and she expected that her parents would allow her to live the life that she was living when she was with him,
Yeah,
and she was 20 to 21, and, whenever her parents said, "No, like, you're under our roof. I don't care if you're 21. You have a curfew. If you want us to pay for your car insurance and all these other things," 'cause, Mexican parents are actually very generous when it comes, or any immigration, like, immigrant parents are not immigration. Immigrant parent is quite, they're quite generous with their children when it comes to this stuff. Um, but, if you're living under their house, it's their rules. And it came to a point where she found another boyfriend and she wanted to do whatever she wanted with him, She wanted to go out with him whenever she wanted. She wanted to, have sex with him whenever she wanted. That she blatantly just, left the house, like, left the house again. completely disregarding everything about her parents. And her parents said something that to me was very interesting. Um, they said there is a difference between, so in Spanish we have two words for freedom. One of them is free to do uh, your own will, and the other one is free to sin. So it's like libertad, which is freedom, and libertinaje, which means freedom to do sin. And they said she is choosing freedom to do sin.
Yeah.
And that's what people want nowadays. You don't want freedom. You want freedom to do sinful things without the remorse.
Consequences.
Sorry?
The consequences. They don't want the consequences.
Consequences, exactly.
No, I do. No, I see that today. Um, hey, what's up, Levon?
Hey, good evening, I guess. Yeah.
Good morning.
Hey, thank you. Hey, thank you for jumping on, man. Thank you for jumping on. I appreciate you being part of tonight's discussion. Now, yeah, to go back to Natalia, yeah, I do agree. I totally agree. Like, I do see a lot of people today. Is like, they make choices for their relationships, um, but they don't want to take the accountability for the consequences that they make, right? So like, they want to have fun. They don't want to have any commitments. They don't want to. They don't want to look for foundational values that you brought up at the beginning. They don't want to look for those things in their partner. But when things go bad or something happens, like they all of a sudden they're like, hey, how come you're not being the type of person that's gonna be responsible, that's gonna take care of me, that's gonna be a good partner? But that was never the expectation in the beginning of the relationship,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? So yeah, thank you for jumping on, Lavon, man. Anything you want to add on to? Obviously, you heard the conversation me and Natalia were having. Anything you want to add on to it, Lavon?
Yeah, when it comes to getting into a relationship and everything, I agree with, dating first. Then, if you feel comfortable, decide about going into a relationship. But there's things that I've been seeing, where, all right, so for instance, two different scenarios. I know this girl, she lives with her boyfriend. She has a couple of kids. But earlier this week, come to find out, she's stepping out on her boyfriend, going to cheat. Why cheat, though? Like, if you're going to cheat, why be in a relationship? So you still have people that that's still going to do bad, even though they're with someone.
Were they dating? Were they still in the dating phase, or were they in a relationship?
They're in a relationship.
And she was cheating.
Yes. So how it went is that she came because she lives about an hour away from where I live at, and she was perhaps about 5-10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And the person that she was going to see, when she popped up to his house, she called his phone. He didn't answer, so she made a drive trip for nothing, all because she was cheat with somebody. All right. Now the second scenario is that, matter of fact, today, this guy that I work with, he's a married man, got 2 kids, but yet he's stepping on his wife. He brings another female to the job just so he can then have intercourse.
Yeah.
And everything. Like, what? Like, you got a good wife at home, you got 2 kids. What does this woman have to offer for you to ruin your relationship with your wife? I don't get it.
That's really hard because it's like, what we were going back and saying that for a woman, most of the time, well, for a woman, sex is more of an emotional attachment. And for a man, I saw this TikTok where a sex psychologist was explaining that for a woman, when she has sex, the dopamine is released and the receptors are receiving, all these other things are receiving an overflow of dopamine, and she gets that connection with him. She gets this high, she gets this connection with him, oxytocin, whatever. And for a man, that isn't released. For a man, it's like he's eating the best cheeseburger he's ever had. That's the analogy. So sex is not going to make a man faithful. Sex is not going to make a man loyal. If anything, nothing is going to make anybody loyal other than your own commitment to your person.
No, I was, I mean, obviously, people cheat for different reasons, and obviously, we all gonna agree on this panel, like, cheating is not, you shouldn't cheat, and especially if you're in a committed relationship, and especially if you're gonna be married and if you made a vow to that person. Um, but I remember, and I would love to hear from Natalia, like, why do you think women cheat? Because I think I was watching this video, and he pretty much broke down why men, the three things that men care about, and if a woman can take care of these three things, like, he has a high chance that man wouldn't leave. And he said the three things that men look for, and I can agree. And then of course, Laval, you can add on to it. He said the only three things that men care about in a relationship is food, sex, and appreciation. That is. So if the man's fed, if the woman takes care of him, makes sure he's fed, taking care of him physically, we appreciate that. That's why for a lot of men, like, I appreciate a woman that can cook and make me a home cooked meal and hot plate. Like, I really, really appreciate that. Second thing is just sex, of course. Like, as men, like, we have we want to have sex, and that's why that's a big one of the big things that we look for we're designed that way. And the third thing is like appreciation. So, like, if a man's appreciating the relationship where the woman appreciates him, the efforts he puts in, appreciates his masculinity as a man, to treat him as a man, to be respected as a man in the relationship. A lot of times, most of the time that guy would stay in that relationship, and I think the guy was breaking down a lot of the reasons why guys step out was either either the woman wasn't taking care of him, or he wasn't getting the sex he wanted, or he wasn't receiving from this woman. But the biggest thing would be like the respect. If a man doesn't feel respected in a relationship by his own woman, to see him and view him and treat him as a man, because there's a lot of women who would emasculate their man in a relationship, so a lot of guys will go and seek that elsewhere in another woman. So, but for you, so that was like the breakdown of why a lot of men will go seek a relationship with with another woman. But what do you think, Natalia, if a woman decided to cheat, like, why do you think most women would, like, why would they leave a committed relationship, or of course risk of being seen that way when people, because obviously when people find out, we all know that's a negative look in society and in your family to know that you're cheating on your. Why would women risk that to go outside the relationship, in your opinion?
First and foremost, I think that it's important to say that cheating is never justified.
Yeah,
And I will say that if a woman were to cheat, there are many factors as to why she would. It could be like maybe she actually doesn't like the person she's with and he's being used as security.
yeah,
Or if she's say that like you're married and you have kids and you love your partner, but you're not feeling appreciated or loved by your partner, if your partner is not loving you and showing love to you the way that you want to be loved, then it's easy to find somebody to, like checks you out at the mall and says, wow, you look good, like come see me. And he's showing you more love than what your husband has been showing you. And you mistake that. You're getting your fill from somebody else. And I do think that that's a reason why women would cheat.
yeah,
I would like to add on to that.
yeah.
Because this is an interesting question, because this subject came up, what was it, last week sometime? One woman said that, I can't remember her name at the moment, but she said the reason why she would step out is if she isn't getting good sex. So
Yeah.
Literally that was her answer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. I couldn't come up with a response to that.
I know some women. I know some women that I am acquaintances with that have also said that.
Mm.
Which
What was the reason?
Sorry?
What was their reasons of why they stepped out?
I don't know. I told them, I said, if you cannot be open with your partner and tell them, hey, this is what I like and this is what I don't like, then
Yeah,
if they don't do it the way that you like, you should be able to tell them that, you
yeah,
know? You can't criticize them if you don't give them pointers, you know?
yeah,
I mean, personally, like, people say like, "Oh, why would you wanna wait for marriage? You guys are both gonna be inexperienced, like, you're not gonna know what to do." You communicate and you figure it out,
yeah, yeah.
you
Just like
know?
Like,
everything in life. Just
like
like
your
everything in life. When you do it
Yeah,
for the first time, obviously it's not gonna be the best when you do something for the first time, but you practice it and you figure it out. But yeah, but I think that's one of the things that I talk to people who had that problem. When you always ask them, okay, did you ever communicate that with your partner? 9 out of 10 times are like,
it's
no.
no, because they think they should know.
They think they should know, or a lot of times like they don't want to hurt their feelings,
Mhm.
right? But I think if we are in a relationship, I think you should have built a relationship to a point where you can really be honest with each other, um, especially if you want something that's improved. So yeah, I think you made a great point. I think for sex, even a lot of my guy friends I talk to, um, they don't even have it's hard for them to have conversations with their woman about sex. Um, and of course, we brought up the point of porn, right? So a lot of times we have this conflated perception of what pleasing a woman is, or what's a healthy sex life is. A healthy sex life is like performing like we see in pornography. All right? So like a lot of guys, because like I said, and I had that perception. I mean, I've watched porn before, and I remember when I was younger, it did mess up with my perception of what sex was, because I thought like, oh shoot, if I'm gonna please her, I gotta do it the way I saw, in pornography. But then I realized, uh, through experience, so like a lot of girls are they're not into that stuff. You have to talk to them, you know. So
Exactly.
everyone's different. So like, and I think especially today, where especially the social media age where people don't communicate no more, and you add on pornography where people watch that at a very young age now, or so a lot of times we have these misconstrued ways of what we think sex is. So we just assume, okay, like Natalia said, we just assume that they should know, right? They
Yeah,
should know, and then we got no kind of conversation, which is ludicrous. Like how are you gonna build something to be better without communicating? That's that's that's
exactly.
that's crazy. But that's the generation we live in today. But thank you so much for bringing that, Lavon, and thank you for bringing up Natalia. Natalia, I know you had some topics and questions that you want to bring up. If you guys are watching right now, thank you so much for watching. Drop a comment on the live chat, and of course, like Lavon, you can jump on and be part of the podcast. Just click on that public link. But yeah, what's your question or topic, Natalia, and we'll dive right into that.
So, it's not really a question, but it is like a topic. So, I don't know if you guys have seen it, uh, around you guys, but growing up Mexican and Catholic, there was, like, this huge emphasis on waiting for marriage, but for the wrong reasons. So, like, my mom would always tell me, like when I was older, of course, she said, "Don't you just wanna, like, wait for marriage so that you can give that to your husband, like, only one man?" As if, like,
Mm.
your virginity was meant for a man rather than you doing it for the love of God, you know? And I explained that to my mom. I said, "Mom, I wouldn't wait for marriage just because I wanna give that to one guy. I'm doing it because I fear God," you know? And I feel like I told you before, virginity is overly sexualized, which is such like a I would say like an oxymoron because it's like you're a virgin, but you're sexualized, you know?
Mm. I
Have you
wanna
guys seen that?
I wanna ask you this. Obviously, when it's sexualized, I know you probably like, for most it's coming from the men, right? The men sexualize it.
Yes, but so do women. So, like, a lot of
Yeah,
women do too in cultures, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's made like a very high priority, or like
Yeah.
their social worth or their social worth and status in the community is based on her ability to maintain her virginity, right?
Yeah, so there's, like, these like, I I barely found out about it because of TikTok, but there's many countries where the night of the wedding, there's, like, this special betting where the man has to, like, have sex with his wife for the first time, and then they publicly hang it for the whole town to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's too extreme. That's too
and they have,
extreme.
like, rituals, like, they'll literally like, there was this one lady that I was watching, they were from I think they were from Peru, and the
Mhm.
lady said, this woman was born from her mother and stayed that way, until she was married," and then holds up, like, the bloody blanket,
Yeah.
and I'm like and everybody's, like, cheering, you know? It's
Do you
crazy.
think do you think that's just like a reflection of the time? Because I think now we live in a more like modern world where it's normalized to have sex. So like if somebody did that, they're like, dude, you're weird. Right?
No, 100 I think a lot of people find that weird now, but, uh, I think almost all of our ancestors probably did that at one point,
The
but
culture
I feel
fit.
like they have more of a point to prove now because it is so predominant, you know?
So you just you don't disagree on the principle. You just disagree on the method of how it's taught to women. Is that what you're saying? So
Yeah.
instead of telling women to save, so you agree in the principle that women should save it for the right man, but just don't teach young girls to save it for the man, but do it in a way to fear God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for God, for yourself. Don't do it for a guy, you know? Don't do it because you think it's gonna be pleasing to a guy. No, do it for yourself. Do it for God. Do it for, uh, your mom. I don't know. Don't do it for a guy.
Okay. What about if they say like do it for a good man? Like say okay, could do it for a worthy man that's a good husband. Do it for him. Is that is
Okay,
that a better way? Is that a better way of saying it? For the good man
okay,
that's
that's good, yeah, but, I mean, I guess my emphasis is more of, um, it shouldn't be, like, a prize for a guy, you know? It shouldn't be seen as a prize for a guy.
I
It
think
it
guys
should
do see it that way.
yeah. They'll be like, "Oh, man,
Yeah.
I just had my first virgin." People are like that.
Yeah. And I don't think guys see it as I think a lot of it, like we brought up before early in the podcast. I think biologically for men, it's innate with us to care about a woman's sexual history because we care about paternity. And that was like our uh, that's our way. That's our natural way to make sure that we know that we're gonna invest our gene. We're gonna pass on our genes to my kids. So it's like biologically hardwired in our psychology to hey, if I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna pass my genetics to my kids and I'm gonna invest my resources to my kids, the best way
Mhm.
to do that naturally is make sure the woman is not sleeping around with multiple men.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's just I think 'cause I don't remember. I'm trying to think my childhood, like, did anybody teach me that? Like, "Hey, you should be attracted to virgins," or was it just I'm trying to figure out if that was nature or nurture. Because I think I'm trying to look
It's
back right now my childhood, like, was it my environment telling me to care about that stuff? Or was it just innate with me as a man? Is that it's something that just came naturally? Well, I was like, "I wanna be with a woman that doesn't have a high sexual body count."
I think
I'm not
it's
trying to think.
nurture.
You think it's nurture?
I do think it's nurture.
That's interesting. What about
I
you,
do.
Lavon? Do you think it's nurture or nature based on your experience as a man? Do you think for you to care about a woman's body can also like just be more attracted to a woman that may be a virgin than a woman that has like a high body? Do you think it's because of society, or do you think that's just biological? You just feel that way as a man?
Well, I know that my mom, you know, with her in my ears as a young guy coming up and everything, you know, she always said about, you know, be careful with what woman you deal with, you know. Woman with more of a body count, though, you know, is more of a risk, you know, to be, you know, catch something or what have you. You know, and like, all right, so like for instance, right now, there's this friend that she deals with. I mean, like I'm acquainted with her or whatever, but you know, she's like actually trying to set us up, you know, because she said the girls are virgin and everything. I'm like,
How old
really?
was she?
She's 28, 28, 29, somewhere around there. And I'm like, no,
Hey, it's possible. It's
huh?
possible.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, nah.
Probable, but
Right. So, but yeah, I'm like, Mom, anybody you set me up with, that's a dangerous thing. So I'm like, nah, that's just me.
yeah, no, yeah. So for you, so Natalia, so for you, like, the principle is okay, but you just tell women, hey, you know, save your virginity for yourself. You know, respect. You know, I think that would be. I think that'd be. I would agree with you, but you know, I think a better way to say to the woman, hey, use it as respect yourself. You know, as a woman, right? Don't
Yeah.
if you do it for self-respect. Yeah,
And you know what? Because we are on the topic of you know, Catholic dating, I would say that if women and men, but women,
yeah,
if women knew the value that God created them with, how God truly sees you in his eyes, like how how you are so precious and you truly felt that in your soul, you would not sell yourself short. You
yeah,
wouldn't.
yeah,
And the reality of it is that this whole generation is going through an identity crisis because we no longer want God. And our identity is rooted in God.
yeah,
And if we do not want to seek anything from him, and we do not believe that we are irreplaceable, if we do not believe that we are not unique, and if we do not believe that we were created by God with love, it's really hard to find true love for yourself, true love and respect and dignity. It's hard to find human dignity, you know? It we're all going through an identity crisis and that well this whole generation is and it gives it's so much easier to sell yourself short for what you really are.
True.
Do you, do you think that I mean, I know you said you grew up very traditional, very Catholic. I know you have a lot of Catholic friends. Do you think that when the way that virginity is taught to you, to the young women, especially the way your mom taught it to you, do you think that makes women more rebellious to go outside of that and seek?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely 100% yes, it makes women want to be more rebellious. It, it is not suffice to say, "Hey, don't do that because, you know, this and that." You know, giving you a very vague answer as to why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I think that um, it needs to be internalized and moralized rather than don't do that, that's bad. Don't do that, it offends God. Don't do that because you're going to get pregnant. You know, it needs to be, it shouldn't be something that is an outside, you know, like you define it for something on the outside. It should be something that you define it within. You are beautiful. You are precious. You are loved. You need to be respectful towards yourself
mm,
because if you do not find a man who respects you the way that you respect you, you will not have a happy life if you choose to be married, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of people that does not have that particular mindset from what I've seen nowadays. You know, I mean, It's like this one person was telling me a story a couple of months back. She was going into high school, and she was still, she was a virgin. So her crazy story was that doggone, she didn't want to go to high school being a virgin, so she lost her virginity the night that she turned 14. Like, I asked her why. Like, you couldn't wait any longer? She said, no, I didn't want to wait. I'm like, okay.
That's really hard because more than likely, nobody told her about her value. Nobody told her, I'm not saying that your virginity gives you like this high status, but you know, you can be, you can make you can have had sex before and come to realize what your worth is, and give yourself that respect. I know many women who do have respect for themselves are not virgins. They have their significant other and they are having sex with them. I just think that it's putting yourself out there where you're not um
Hmm.
you are not being reciprocated.
I totally agree with what you said. I think teaching women to appreciate and have some respect with themselves, to know what they have is something special, to know their worth. Because I feel like that if you don't know your worth, and I would say this, maybe some people was watching this right now may disagree. I think if we're talking about dating and how men, when it comes to like your sexual market value in the dating market of how we are perceived in dating. Um, like I mentioned before, obviously, one of the things that most men do care about is a woman's uh, sexual past history. So, usually the women, that's why there's a lot of terms, for a lot of guys, I don't want to be with a hoe. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. That's why those terms exist. Those cliches exist
Mm.
because there's some truth to it. For a lot of guys, they know that a woman that has a high sexual history comes with a lot of issues, baggage, trauma, and it's gonna be very, we talked about before, very difficult to work with. Usually, they're not the most feminine women. So I think for me, is like it is important to teach women to understand what they have is special to self-respect. Because one thing I do see now in modern society, if women don't value their uh, uh, their sexuality and what they have, then they're open to be exploited by society or men, right?
Mhm.
That's why we see it now within OnlyFans, a whole generation of younger women that think that women empowerment is having sex in front of a camera, and that's empowering. I mean, I'm a strong, independent woman because I can make my own bag by, showing my body and also having sex on camera, and that's considered something that's, for a lot of women, they think that that's something that they can uh, hold their, have pride in.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's crazy. It's crazy to see that, but I think that's for a lot of women making those type of choices in life does attract a lot of problems that come with that lifestyle. Not only on the externally on the societal level, but emotionally within, love. There's a lot of issues that deals with that. So yeah, I think 'cause sometimes when I meet women who chose to have, they don't want to participate in the casual dating sexual culture. When I talk to those types of women, they have a very it's been instilled in them by their parents or by their upbringing or by their religion that they want to save that for themselves. They have some respect for themselves of who they share their body with, and they also want to save that for the man they love or
Mhm.
potential husband. But what I realize is, if a lot of women who never had that self-respect or value, they often get exploited. It's very easy to be exploited by other people, by society, or by other men, or by other women as well, because people can date each other now. So yeah, I do see that. I do see that with a lot of women who, especially my friends. I have some friends now that are in the sexual industry who do OnlyFans, and all of them, uh, they all came from like a troubled past, or a lot of them they never had a father or never had a good upbringing. So usually, whenever I talk to women who do engage in those type of behaviors, I rarely have met a woman that like had a good upbringing, had a good solid foundation, or they had a be taught self-respect, and they decided to like engage and go into like the sexual history to be exploited
Yeah.
by the industry. So yes, I think that's something. Yeah, that's a good point. I think we should. Uh, yeah, I think women should be taught that. But I think yeah, that's always a conversation with, from a lot of my religious friends, women who they're like when I talk to them, it's like if the parents are too hardcore on them when it comes about sex, like they become very rebellious.
And I think it's just the way that they come about it, you know? Yeah, it's
Like, what would be?
hard.
I mean, for me, like if you have a daughter one day, like how would you communicate that with her?
So, uh, you remember how I was telling you about theology of the body?
Yeah,
So I took a course on theology of the body, which is a Catholic teaching um, about how when femininity and masculinity come together, it forms a perfect union, just like Christ and the church. And actually, it's 33 teachings, but five of those teachings were not made public. They are public, but they're specifically for parents to teach their children. It's a guide on how to teach your child that um, they are unique, they are loved by God, they have a special gift within them that is, the power of being able to have sex, and that it's something so beautiful and so good that it should be intended to be with one person, via the Catholic teachings. Um, and I think it's a very beautiful way of teaching your child because when you teach your child at very, very, very young how loved they are and how special they are, they won't have these, like you said, a lot of your friends grew up with a lot of uh, like family issues and stuff like that.
yeah,
They were missing something. They're searching in their adult life for something that their childhood that
right.
their
They were
child inner child needed. And if you yourself start with your child, teaching them their value, their self worth, all this other stuff. I think that way it's so much easier to be able to teach them growing up um, about sexual morals.
What age would you start that? By the way, like how
You
early?
start that when they're little. So, um, actually, I am a teacher and I work at a Catholic school. We're required to take a course called Protecting God's Children, which is all about children and sexual exploitation of children. Because let's be fair, the Catholic Church has a very bad reputation with um, you know child molestation and stuff like that. I'm Catholic and I'll be the first one to say that, and that is our response on trying to tackle that and make sure that that doesn't happen as often. But yeah, it teaches you that you have to teach you teach your child um, the appropriate word for their, you have to tell them like it's your penis, it's your vagina. You tell them you have this and you can't let people touch that. It starts at a very, very young age.
Yeah, I had a friend who was on a podcast. I think she said that she started teaching her daughter, I think around 7 or 8 or something like that, 7, 8, 9 years old, about just simple terms and just making sure she knows like these are certain places in her body that no one should touch at
Yeah,
all, including herself, including her own, even her like her own mom. Like I wouldn't touch that.
yeah,
So that way she knows like because I think that is important because I
yeah,
have there's a lot of sexual molestation that happens within my culture, within my community. A lot of times when I talk to those people, and I've done podcasts with people who had that history in their past, and all of them did pretty much say the same thing, like they just didn't know.
mhm. It's
Um,
it's really sad. It's a sad, sad issue, but I think we can't ignore it, We shouldn't ignore it.
Is that 33 teachings? Is that something that's new that that the church just recently is like released and started teaching? Like, when did that start happening?
So actually, it was released in 1972. I think it was 1972. I think that's when it was released. But it's called Theology of the Body.
Hmm.
I think it's a very interesting read. My boyfriend is Muslim, and I I have asked
Just
him to read it, and he agrees with more than the majority of what the teachings say. It's not just a religious teaching, it's a, fundamental teaching, you know?
hmm.
Okay.
How does that work? You know, Muslim, Catholic.
It,
How do you
That's an interesting combination.
it's actually, it works out in our favors, very much so because he is very Muslim. He, prays 5 times a day, you know, um, very devout, and I'm a very devout Catholic. And when we were in the talking stage, we did have to have, you know, conversations that you usually don't have with somebody until like you're thinking about getting engaged. And we spoke about family and all this other stuff, which we're on the same page. So it's it's nice to have a partner um, who portrays what you want in a partner. So
yeah.
so
Well, it
yeah,
makes
it's
sense because the Catholics are very traditional, and I've done podcasts with Muslims, and they're very traditional as well. So even
mhm.
though the mythology may be different, but the principle is almost the same.
Principles are very, very similar, and my parents are very Catholic, and, they love him. They, accept him, so it's great.
Muslim, like, were they shocked? Were they like, "Oh my God, Muslim?" Or like, what was their reaction?
I think my parents always sort of knew that I was going to end
Because
up
you're
mar
Latina, you have hardcore Latina Catholic parents.
Yeah, but, I speak Arabic, and I taught English in the Middle East, and, my parents always just knew that I was gonna end up marrying a an Arab, and I'm not married to him, nor are we engaged, but it wasn't a surprise to them.
How long did you teach in the Middle East?
It was a year.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
you learned the language fluently in 1 year.
Not fluently, but it was pretty darn close to it. Pretty darn close to it. So,
That's oh hey, that makes sense. You know, Muslim Catholic, you speak Arabic. Hey, that's a perfect match right there.
That question, Dawn. So if you had an opportunity to go back and teach for another year, would you?
oh, yeah. I'm doing a summer next year, God willing, if things aren't, like, bad.
Yeah, yeah, it's very. I know. Yeah, because I've talked. So next week, because I'm hosting a podcast next week with Muslim women, but they're very very traditional, and I could see it. You know that definitely
I
makes
might
it work.
have to join. No,
Oh yeah, yeah, of course you can definitely join. It's a public show, so if you want to join in and be part of the conversation, you're always welcome. You know, you can speak some Arabic. Maybe you guys can converse in Arabic.
yeah, right?
All right, no worries. I wanted to bring this up, this topic real quick. And you know, because you know, you're very traditional, and I have conversations with a lot of like modern women. And you mentioned you were college educated before. Um, when you a lot of the discussions I have, like, can can a woman who is very masculine, can she, can a woman be masculine and be in and have a good and be in a long term relationship with a man um, that's masculine as well? Does that work out? Because a lot of women would say that if a woman who is very masculine, the usually the common uh, uh, what I hear from a lot of women is like, oh, um, if a man can't handle a masculine woman, he's just not strong enough. He's weak. He can't handle. Oh, you can handle all of this. You know, you can handle a
Yeah.
strong woman. And then what I hear from a lot of the men is like, no, it's number one, I'm a man. I'm like, physically bigger than you. So I can't. It's not like I can't handle you. It's just a lot of men are saying it's not. Of course, I can handle. We can handle you, but it's very difficult.
Mhm.
So why would I? If a man has two options and one's a woman that's very difficult to deal with, but it's possible. You use that word before. It's possible.
Mhm.
It's possible. But then one woman's very feminine and she's more willing to be more agreeable, be more cooperative. And what a lot of the men were saying is like it's not because we can't handle you. It's just it's harder to deal with you. And for a lot of men, like it's much easier for my masculinity to complement with a very feminine woman. But
Mhm.
if I'm masculine, you're masculine. Our our traits don't complement each other. They're fighting. They're combative against each other. So what's your thoughts on that? As a woman, you have a man in a relationship, and is it possible for a woman to be very masculine and be with a guy that's because most women, if you talk to most women, even the independent women, they still want a masculine guy.
Yeah.
They don't want a feminine man. They don't want a guy that's less feminine than her. I mean, it's more feminine than her. So what's your thoughts on that topic on
It's
women who are very masculine?
possible. It is possible, but I think that it is going to be very difficult. I have a friend, she's a close friend. You had asked me if I have any friends that think differently than I do. Um, she is very masculine. Not that she looks like a dude or anything, but she's very independent. She does things for
Temperament,
herself.
her personality and attitude. Yeah,
Yeah. She is like one of the guys that people have told her that. Yet she presents herself as very feminine, but herself, she's a very masculine person. She's actually attracted to feminine men. Yeah, so I think many women who are more masculine rather to have a guy who will submit to them because they are masculine. Um, I think they have been masculine for so long that it's just a part of who they are
yeah,
and who they wanna be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think here's here's a question I want to ask you because I've heard that from women. They say that they like prefer feminine men, and I would say this: do you think that women who are very masculine choose feminine men because that's their first option, or they choose feminine men because majority of the masculine men don't they're not attracted to you, so you have to go to what's available, and the only available potential men in that's gonna be in a relationship with you is a feminine man. So do you think that's the case? Because I do believe like I believe biologically women they would still even the masculine women they still prefer a masculine man. They would if they were able to attract those men, but because of our the biology of how we attract each other, femininity and masculinity, we doesn't work. So masculine men are not gonna give them the relationship they want. So a lot
Mhm.
of women like they have like because at the end of the day we still want a relationship. We have to take what's available in the dating market. So if the only men that if the masculine men are not giving you the relationship you want, and the only guys that's going to give you the relationship you want are feminine men, do you think that's the case? It's a matter of availability, and not by like that's what I really
I
because
don't think that's the case.
I have a masculine friend right now, and we had a conversation. It was just like like it's hard for me to change my personality and my temperament because I've been this way most of my life, but I'm still attracted to masculine men. But I realized like the masculine men, it never works out
Mhm.
because you know it's hard for me to submit to him because I'm masculine and he's masculine, and also a lot of them they just go with the feminine women.
Mhm.
So I just decided to be with this guy, even though he's not masculine, but he's more feminine. I just went with him. What do you think about that?
I I think that that could be the case for some people, but personally, I don't think that that's the case. I think that, um, beauty is subjective, and I think that if a woman wants a guy, I think she can get it, and yeah, sometimes they don't have options and they go for the next thing, but I do think that it's not just because they have no options. I do think that in the end it was their decision, because more likely than more times than less, women don't typically settle. You know, I have heard that I've heard researches that men tend to settle more than women, and I don't know if that's true or not. That was a research that I had read, but I do think that a woman can get what she wants, whether she's feminine or masculine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. I think men we settle a lot more, and I think the reason why that is because like we're the ones who have to pursue women. Like, so, like we have to approach you, right? So we're the ones
Yeah,
that so like for men, it's like we're gonna approach as many women as we can, and then whatever woman takes us, and we're just gonna go with that one, and we're just gonna that's the one I asked 100 women, and maybe 3 of them responded, and then out of those 3 women, that's the best one I like the most. I'm gonna go
uh-huh,
with that, and I'm fine with that. And I think the reason why a lot of times a lot of women it's hard for them to it's hard for them not to they don't settle is because you guys get to choose, right? So like the men approach you,
yeah,
you have all your options, and so you can constantly just wait it out and see what your available options are. I
mhm,
think for a lot of guys, like we don't, you know, we don't want to play that game all the time. We don't want to get rejected constantly over and over and over and over. Once we find a woman that's says, "Hey, yes, we find we make it work. We're compatible. We enjoy each other." It's like I'm good. I'm done. Okay, I found my one. I don't want to keep going out there in the dating market to keep asking women out and keep trying to take them on dates. And maybe she might reject me. And if I find a good one, and there was also a study on Tinder. I think it was on Tinder. They said that on Tinder, I think 67% of the men like the majority of the women's profiles, while the women, when 60-70% of the women's likes only went to like 5% of the men.
yeah.
Mm.
It's shameful to admit this because me and my boyfriend, like, we always joked about how we would tell people that we met, and we like to the people that we don't want to know how we actually met, we tell them, "Oh, we met at a coffee shop," but we met on Tinder. And on Tinder in my bio, I had to write not looking for hookups, you know? But yet I would still get likes from guys who wanted to hook up. And it's like, did
So
you
why?
read the bio?
Why?
I guess, you know what? I feel like one, men are like, "Oh, she's playing hard to get. This is my game," you know? And it's like, "No. I already said no."
The thing is, and Lavan, you can speak up on this.
Yep.
So women, because you guys can choose, right? So you get to so the men are approaching you, so you get to sit back and just okay look at the landscape of which one do I want, right?
Yeah.
Then we have to shoot our shot and hope which one's gonna say yes. So
Mhm.
when it comes to Tinder, so for you, when you go to a Tinder profile, you actually read the profile because you have all these men approaching you. But for men, our strategy is just we just keep we just,
And
we
then if
just
you
Uh,
if you don't like the
we
ones you
don't look
match with, you
we
just
don't even look at the button. We don't even look at their profile. We just swipe, and then whoever says yes,
wow, that's
that's the one.
interesting. Because
That's the one we go with.
my boyfriend told me that he reads everybody's bios.
Yeah.
He would read everybody's bios, he would check their pictures, he would check the surroundings of the pictures, and he would make his decision as if, if he liked the environment she was in, if she seemed like she had a good vibe, he would swipe right. If she didn't, he would swipe left. If it's just something that he didn't like.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
and like so I mean, I was doing the same thing, but I actually had downloaded. I ended up getting the premium one so that I didn't have to swipe. I could just like see all the guys who liked me, and then base off of that because I was tired of swiping left on every profile that I saw.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, what do you think of Lavon? Do you think for most guys like we just
I mean, by nature, men are naturally hunters. I mean, by nature, men are naturally hunters. I mean, that's the way I've
yeah
always been brought up. Now the one thing that was always said: if a woman is hunting you, then you got a problem on your hands. I don't know.
Hey, but some men like it. Some men like it. Have you guys seen that episode on that show on Netflix? Um, it's called Love is Blind.
yeah yeah yeah
So on the newer season, there was a guy, I forgot his name, Shane. So Shane liked two girls. He couldn't see them, but so like it was like blind dating, and there was two girls that he liked. One of them he liked because she was promiscuous, and he seemed that she was like, very much to what he would be into in real life. The other one would give him compliments, and she told him, "I like you." And he told everybody, "I picked Natalie because" her name was Natalie. "I like Natalie because she likes me back." So that's interesting that,
compliments, right?
yeah, like guys also like it. Guys like to be chased too. Guys like to be told they're pretty.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's about the chase. I think a lot of guys we appreciate appreciation from
Mhm.
women because for most because like Lavon, so we're the hunters, and we know for men like in order for us to get women, we have to give you attention and we have to tell you,
Mhm.
hey, you're pretty, you're beautiful. If because we're all competing with all the other guys, right? So we have to compete. Um, and because of for the women, you don't really have to chase a man. You don't really have to approach a man. So you rarely hear women compliment men unless you're in like a long term relationship with that woman. Unless you're in a
Mhm.
relationship with her, then she would tell you, hey, I think you're hot. I think you're pretty. I think you like you. But I think most women won't have the courage to just approach a guy and be like, hey, I think you're hot. Like most women
Yeah, I
wouldn't do
wouldn't.
that. But guys, we know that's what we have to do to. So
Yeah.
women, you guys hear compliments all the time. But I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes I've heard compliments from women that was, hey, you're handsome, you're good looking. I don't know, it feels good, even though it rarely happens. But in that rare instance, it's like, oh, thank you. I think because we don't hear that often. Is that
Mhm.
true, Lamar? Like
Right.
you, you get a lot of compliments from women, and no, not rarely, right?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
You receive a lot of compliments from women, like they just approach you, be like, hey, I think you're a good looking man, you're handsome. Do you get a lot of compliments from women?
Not too often.
How many times have you heard that in your life?
Uh,
Like right out of the blue, not like somebody that like you're courting, but somebody that's just like random.
Like a random woman, like a
oh,
random.
well, I'll put it this way. Usually, the times I usually hear it is mostly in church.
Oh,
Yeah, and yeah, yeah, and what's crazy is that and I know this may be changing up the subjects just a tad bit, but when I'm hearing it is when I'm taking my mom to church. Like for some reason they have this persona where as if either me and my mom are siblings or as if my mom is my wife.
Hmm.
So I'm like, are you serious right now? So it's just an awkward situation. I'm like, okay, mom, I gotta stay a couple of feet from you because people are getting things twisted.
it could also be that like I feel like a lot of women who go to church, um, not just because they go to church, but because they're um, in a relationship with God, they want to get married. They're seeking a traditional way of dating and being married one day. And I think that they see a guy who goes to church and takes his mom to church, and they're like, oh, I want that one. Because let's be honest, many women, their requirement for a spouse that are, religious, they
Family
want
oriented.
they want the man to be religious also. And for me, it used to be a deal breaker. I wanted my future spouse to be Catholic, but my boyfriend right now is not Catholic, and it's working pretty great, honestly. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Are those women at the church? They're like the ones who say that they're single. Is that what they're saying? Are there single women, like the single older women?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a niece. That's what they say.
That's probably why.
Yep.
No worries. Yeah. For the last part to conclude the podcast, do you have what's one final topic, Natalia, you want to throw it out there and we conclude the podcast with that? What's a good one? Don't hold back on that one.
Ooh. I had this one because I thought that, there was going to be more of the Catholic women on here, but one of the one that I was going to say was your relationship with God and the church relevant to your relationship with boys? So, like, do you think that being in a relationship with a guy should involve your relationship with God?
That's good. That's good. I think I mean, for me, I would say yes. I think my faith is intertwined with my relationship with my woman, because I know we brought up the in the beginning of the podcast, foundation, right? So a lot of the foundation and values that I want to build my relationship on is going to be based on my not only my personal values but also my faith as well, what I believe in and what I practice.
Yes.
Uh, so I think it is intertwined. It goes hand in hand.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the more you stay to those values, the more of course, we're all human. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes with flaws. But I think the closer you stay, sense that you center your life with God,
Mhm.
and I think it makes it a lot better to attract better quality people. I think when we stray away from our morals and values and our beliefs, I think that's when we tend to, uh, attract certain people that may not be the best partners
Yes.
for our life. Because yeah, when I look back at the past, my past relationships and people of women that didn't work out, hindsight's always 2020. I always look back, I was like, man, I chose them not because of their values. They were just pretty. I'll be honest. So like I just chose them because they were pretty, and then I didn't base I didn't base my selection of going into to date them because of any moral values. But I learned as I got older, like you have to base it with your morals and values. And then right now I'm at that point. Right now, it's like if I meet a woman, no, of course I still want her to be pretty, be attractive, because that's important to me as a man. But I know for it to last long term, I do need somebody that we have similar values and morals, because it's like I said, it's gonna be really, really hard to be with somebody that doesn't follow the same principles and values I follow, because I know for a fact I will end up resenting them. I
Oh,
won't,
yeah.
I will end up resenting them. So I think that's very toxic, to be with somebody if you're not aligned with them, especially what you believe in and the morals that you put it you have you make it a standard for yourself. And
Exactly.
yeah, I think it goes hand to hand. I think it would be a bad idea not to. What do you think, Levon? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yep.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I got a message. So
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
fine.
Repeat it one more time. Natalia?
So, do you believe that your relationship with God should, affect your relationship with your significant other? Like, you should take your relationship with God in count when you are seeking a relationship.
I am not sure how to answer this at the moment.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it can be hard, like Will was saying, in the past you were dating girls because they were pretty, and it's so hard to give that up, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody likes what they see, and you convince yourself more that, hey, I need this because this looks nice, and it's hard to give that up. It's really, really hard to give that up.
Well, I think also I think when you have experience, right? When you mix, one thing I learned for me is like, no matter how beautiful a woman is, long term, that relationship, me and her are gonna have problems if our values don't align, right? And that's what I found out was like, look, I she was very beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, she's very attractive, but in a relationship with her, I just found that we just had a lot of disagreements, a lot of arguments,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that there's always going to cause issues because, like I said, our behaviors of how we act is always going to be reflected on the values that we have and and the
Mhm.
morals that we have. So if I'm with a woman that doesn't have the same morals, she's going to act in a way that's opposite of what I believe in, and that's going to cause issues to me,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So I just learned that it's not it's in the beginning because we all go through the honeymoon phase in the beginning, but when the honeymoon phase is over and you finally face reality, and then you finally spending a long amount of time with this person, and you realize, oh wow, like it's gonna be difficult because our morals don't align, and we do things opposite of what we believe in, which causes a lot of arguments and disagreements. But if you're with somebody that you have the same morals and values, you rarely have any disagreements because you guys all believe in and you guys act accordingly
Yeah.
to the same things. Like I act upon my beliefs and values, and then she acts upon the same beliefs and values. But it'd be really, really hard to be with somebody that has opposite values and morals or beliefs that you have, because you're gonna have a lot of disagreements and a lot of headaches.
Right.
You know,
Or
so it's like,
Oh, yeah.
and that's long term. It's gonna be that's not gonna be. It's gonna be a very toxic relationship.
Very much
So
so.
sex will be good, but the sex will be great. But
no, no comment.
after that, you're gonna hate up and resenting each other right after. Uh, so it's not good long term. That's what I learned. It's like, oh wow, it's not good long term.
Right.
So, and I think
Yeah.
every young person goes through it. But I think also our modern society, social media, uh, reinforces that. Conditions that to a lot of the people today. Don't care about morals and values. Just just have sex, have fun. Uh, care more about the superficial things. You
Yeah.
know, bodies or their sexual attraction, and a lot of times we just fall into that, and we have to learn the hard way. Really have to learn the hard way. But a lot of people will learn from it. But a lot of people, just they never learn from it, and they keep going through cycles.
Oh, yeah.
I think another thing is also with that is that um, some tend to, like you say, it's not the morals is not there, lining up. Um, and then what I find is that some females tend to get with guys that don't like to flash money around.
Yeah,
That's a pretty common thing that I've been seeing. You know, doesn't matter. I mean, doesn't matter whether his personality is good, bad, whatever. All they seen is this. So obviously that's another short term thing that's just gonna go right on out the window eventually.
did you ever go through that, Natalia? did you ever like be with guys that or ever date guys that they didn't really have the you guys didn't align morally or with your values? Did you ever
Yeah,
try that?
yeah.
How'd
I
that go?
so my last relationship, our morals did not align, but um, I didn't know that until we were already because we were friends, and I thought that being friends would be strong enough, to um, get over that, but no, absolutely not. It was something very foundational is that foundation is even stronger than what a friendship could be. One thing that my mom told me whenever we had broken up, she said, when you and your significant other have the same morals and values, it's as if you both speak the same language. So it's like, you know, I'm speaking English to him, he's speaking English to me when we both agree. But if I'm speaking Korean to him and he's speaking English to me and we don't understand each other, it's not going to work out. There's going to be no communication. It's not going to be make any sense because you don't have the same morals.
Right.
Was he Catholic?
No, he wasn't anything. But I've also been in a relationship with a guy who um, was very Catholic and um, very. We would have this. In a sense, we had the same morals, and it was the worst relationship I was ever in. So yeah,
I mean, looking back at it now, in hindsight, like, what, like, why did you choose? Why did you go with the guys that didn't have the same morals and values as you do?
why didn't I? Why I did go with the guys that didn't have the same values? So
What the
I
values?
I think it was sort of the same thing like what you said you went through whenever, like, you saw something pretty. I don't I don't I thought my relationship with him as a friend was beautiful. I thought he was very cute, so I gave it a shot, and
Got you. Yeah.
that shot was not it. So
Oh, okay. So, question for you. Um, During the friendship phase, did you ever, throughout your matter of fact, how long were your friends for?
we had known each other since high school.
Okay, so during that time period, as being friends, did you ever notice any kind of red flags, yellow flag?
No, none at all. None at all. He was very kind, um, as a friend
Okay.
as a friend.
Was it just more of the values that you were taught in church? Is that where the disconnect was?
Yeah, and, at that time, he knew that, like, I was waiting for marriage, and he said he was okay with that until it got to the point where he didn't want that,
Yeah.
and he thought that I was only saying that, to attract him more, and I was like, "No, absolutely
Playing hard to
not."
get. Playing hard to get.
Yeah, like, no. But yeah, it was not good. And you know what? I'm very happy in the relationship that I'm in. Although we are not the same faith, we have, like I said, we have the same morals and values. Um, my mom has told me before, like, "Oh, you should tell him to convert," and I was like, "No, mom, because if he converts to Catholicism for me, then his connection with God is not genuine. It would be because of me." And I want a man who has a genuine connection with God because they have a genuine connection with God. And my mom, I guess she agreed. She understood.
Yeah.
So
I've always heard from the church like you should flirt to convert. Flirt to convert. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what is that? No, that's um is it? I mean, what do you call it? When I know you say you save yourself for marriage, so when when he brought it up, like, was it how long? How long was the relationship? 6 months to a year?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months.
He just brought it up. He was like, "Hey, what's up?"
And you know what? It's the most disrespectful way that he brought it up too, because it was like, so he had joined the Air Force, and we were doing long distance, and when he finally got his phone back from boot camp, um, he just sends me on Snapchat a nude. And I was like, what the hell? Like, this was completely uncalled for, you know? And it's like I was gonna go over there for his actual graduation. And I was like, that's a no. Absolutely not.
Mm.
Oh, it's just through a snap. It was through a snap.
Oh, I said, no, sir. No.
Oh, that's good. Hey, I know you said your boyfriend is Muslim. That does he? I know you guys are dating. Does he like? Does he? Because I know when I talked to the Muslim girls on the previous podcast, they have rules for like how they date women. There's like you have to. There's a chaperone and a third,
Yeah.
like
The mahram.
a third person, a mahram. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
they call it a
Is it
mahram.
just that's to apply to you, even though you're not
Uh,
Muslim?
so he's from Saudi Arabia. He's a student here. Was a student. He's graduated now, but his parents live in Saudi Arabia, so it's not like he needs a chaperone, but it's not like we're taking advantage of that either, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Many times he's told me, "Hey, do you want to bring your sister along and she can be like our, you know, reason that we don't do anything?" I was like, "We're not going to do anything anyways." Like, but like he'll offer for me to invite my sister so that, you know, that's like our
Oh, okay. Oh, all
Um,
right.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I don't think I want to go to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I would.
Yeah, I think Lavon. I think a lot of people have like misperceptions of Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. Uh, until you go there, because I think a lot of times the Western society does paint Middle East in a very negative way. But a lot of my friends that have gone to Saudi Arabia, like, it's a beautiful place.
Beautiful. You know, it's
Beautiful.
funny. It's funny because just the other day we were talking about how Saudi Arabia is now starting to enter into like the Crown Prince MBS, he's like allowing a lot of tourism and all this other stuff. And he said that in Saudi Arabia right now, it is starting to become westernized when it comes to dating. That I mean, even back then, he said there was always hookups, but it wasn't as much as it is now, and it's not as public as it is now. Like so many more people are um, publicly hooking up,
I
and
want to ask you this: is it
uh
the men? You see, so you've been to the Middle East before. Do you see more men with foreign women, or women with foreign men?
I think, ugh, I think it's both. No, 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 no. It's more foreign women with, well,
Men.
as in like I'd be considered a foreigner in their country.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of
So
course.
the the Arab natives, yeah, more Arab native men are seeking,
There are foreign women.
yeah, and it's mostly because they think that um, these foreigners are celestial sexual beings that are here to fulfill their every fantasy, when that's not true. It's funny because I worked with two teachers that were very strictly Muslim, wore the hijab and everything, and he said, "You know what, Natalia? I never knew that Christians were like you. I just thought you guys all had sex and did whatever you wanted. I thought that was part of your guys' teachings." And I said, her name was Nadine. I said, "No, Nadine, we're like you guys. Like we're not supposed to have sex. We're actually very devout." She said, "Wow, I see that with you." And I was like, "Yay."
No, I think it's the opposite. You know how like the West society paints a bad negative picture for the Middle East. I think the Middle East paints a bad picture for the West. All those Christians, they're sexualized beings.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
the first time I went to Palestine, I was 20, and I'm a curvy girl. You know, I'm voluptuous, whatever you like to call it. But at that time, we were entering a church, and I was wearing a dress and, you know, whatever. When a native Palestinian man like looks at me and like sticks his tongue out like in a very sexual way, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was really scared. I, I was like, why?
You probably thought that was like what Christians do, like the normal way you guys.
Everybody does that. What you mean?
You probably watched them. You just saw some American movie and they did that in that movie.
Imagine.
Yeah.
You probably watched 50 Shades of Grey. That's probably why he watched.
Probably. He thinks everything's like that. No, my boyfriend says that some Arab men make him cringe so hard because they act like they've never seen a woman before because of the way that they are around them. And
Yeah. Hey, no worries. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, we have come to the end of the podcast. Lamar, you have something to say real quick?
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen that movie, but I've heard of it.
Oh, you can go ahead. It's a lot of sex in that movie. Just want to let you know.
and that was our closing line.
Okay.
No worries, but yeah, thank you. We have come to the conclusion of the podcast. Everybody that's watching this right now, thank you so much. Natalia, thank you so much for being on here. And yeah, we had some good conversations tonight.
Yes.
Talked about different topics. And Lamont, thank you for jumping on as a public guest. I just want to ask everybody real quick, especially for Natalia, what's your final thoughts from tonight's discussion? And of course, people watching this right now, how can people find you? They want to find you and support you on your platform. Go ahead, Natalia.
Okay, so I really enjoyed this conversation, although it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved all the conversations we had. I don't necessarily have a platform, but if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is Nini, Nini .chms.
All right. And for all my people that are Muslims and watching this in Arabic, anything you want to say in Arabic for everybody out there right now?
شكرا جزيلا.
Shukran
شكرا جزيلا.
Shukran Nazila.
Mhm.
Okay.
No worries. Thank you so much, Natalia, for being on here. Thank you, everybody that's watching. If you missed, if you just tuned in right now, watch it from the beginning of the episode. Of course, we host this every single Friday, and then next Friday, we will be having a Muslim panel. And Natalia, you're free to join us on next week on the Muslim panel. We'd be interested to have you jump on and be part of the conversation as well. But we host this every single Friday, so appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to the channel. But Lavon, Natalia, thank you so much for being on here and taking your time. We had some great conversations. Enjoyed it. But you guys have a great evening. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.